Hello, my name is Alexander Ferris and I am Associate Director at Leeds Playhouse. So my route from school into being a director was quite long. I found out about theatre quite late, when I was about sort of 17, 18. And I went and joined a youth theatre and I really enjoyed it. And I left school and I worked in some factories in South Wales, which is where I'm from. And then I thought I wanted to do something a bit more and find out a bit more about this thing called theatre. So I applied to university and I went and studied drama at Liverpool John Moores University. And then I went back to my home in South Wales and I started a new writing night, just working with scripts and directing new scripts, and kind of went from there. I think you need to be able to communicate with people, hopefully clearly and preferably concisely. And I think you need to have a passion for what you're trying to do, and you also have to have a will and a desire to support other people, and an ability to be able to bring people together to all sort of be facing the sort of same direction and working towards the same end goal. Well, I think like most people will say, no 2 days are the same. As a director based at a theatre, you can be doing all sorts of different things, from having discussions about what you might programme at the theatre, to talking about developing new scripts. You may spend some days working with actors developing new scripts, or you may be rehearsing with actors. You may also be spending some time with your creative team, so other collaborators, designers, musicians, composers, to try and develop ideas. And then also, I suppose, a lot of the time you are kind of having conversations with people and speaking to potential partners and other collaborators to see on what you might work on together. So the best things about the job, I think, are when you start to see something come together. When you're working on a project and directing a project, at the moment when all of the elements that you've been kind of working on, sometimes separately, are all starting to kind of come together and you can kind of finally see it. I think it's also really nice to find those collaborators that you like to work with, when you find people who perhaps understand you or have a similar kind of sense of humour or kind of look at life, that you can kind of share that and work together with other people. I think also for me, I really enjoy getting to meet lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds. I think that's a really exciting element of the job as well. Some of the worst things are at times it can be quite hard when you've got lots of people asking questions and wanting decisions from you, and you maybe aren't 100% sure what your decision is, but you know that people need a decision straight away, and so sometimes that can be quite difficult. And I think sometimes it can be a bit, as a director, sometimes you're a bit removed from things. So the actors might have their kind of fellowship and their camaraderie, and sometimes you're slightly removed from that. But generally speaking, all of the hard bits are sort of all worth it, because the rewards that you get are so brilliant. Being a director can be very creative, but I think there's also quite a lot of very practical things that you need to bear in mind. So when you're doing projects with big companies, so when there's lots of people involved, quite often you have to really plan out meticulously the things that you need to do and when you need to do them. So you spend a lot of time looking at kind of spreadsheets and planning when things are going to happen. So that maybe doesn't seem like quite as creative and free-flowing as you might like it to be. And also then sometimes you have to go through budgets and you have to work through those kind of things. So that can be a bit working with figures and having these great ideas, but then realizing that you can't do those things. I think sometimes that's some of the harder things that you have to do. So I think maybe those are more surprising things. So the advice I'd give to someone who wanted to be a director, I think, would be read as much as you can. And that doesn't have to be novels or plays necessarily. You should, if you can, read film scripts, watch films, read graphic novels. Just try and consume as much art as you can, because I think all of those things will be useful when you're having collaborative discussions to pull on those references. So even if it's things that aren't particularly to your taste, sometimes it can be very helpful. So visiting art galleries, just looking at pictures on the internet can be a really useful process as well. And I think if you're just doing that as a standard, you can really get ahead of the game. I always wish I'd read more, or I wish I'd seen more shows, or I wish I'd done X, Y, and Z. And so actually, if you start doing that straight away, then you'll be in a good stead when you come to becoming a director professionally. So there are lots of jobs in theatre, so it's not just actors or directors, it's not just the creative side of the job. There are opportunities to be in construction, scenery painting, wardrobe, so people who are involved in textiles and things like that. There's people we have people called draftsmen, who are the people who do the sort of diagrams and schematics to be able to build sets. So if you have that kind of mind, theatre's a really great place for you. We have accountants as well, so if numbers are your thing, you can do that. There's all sorts of different jobs in theatre, and all of them are kind of working towards the sort of creating the really exciting productions that you get to see. And so if you're interested in any way in theatre, but maybe you don't fancy being an actor, or you don't fancy making the shows, there's still loads of other jobs you could do to work in theatre.